Hi, this is Kevin Dillon. You have potentially seen or read my words in my blog, Eternal Thoughts of Kevin's Mind. I figured I'd try something new and um, take a video and talk about a few things that are going on in pop culture right now. I can't sleep, so I figured this might be something that could work and could be pretty fun. At the moment, um, I would say the thing, as I plug in my computer, the thing that is on my mind is I've seen a lot of really good movies lately, and I think a lot of people, you'll see the ads start to pop up that films are going to be Oscar nominated or they're surefire Academy Award hits. Um, it's going to be an interesting year. I think it could be a lot more interesting than last year. The Artist was a pretty big bore fest for me. The movie was good and it was well made, but the way it kind of just stampeded itself into the Best Picture win was a little baffling to me. But there was no movie last year that people really loved or enjoyed on a unanimous level, and that was the one that people seemed to appreciate the most. The other ones all had drawbacks or de facto were something that people just couldn't get behind. But this year it seems to be like that there's a lot of really like cool, a lot of good movies that people are really interested in. I think I've seen a couple of them recently. There's still a few on my list that I have to see. I think right now the first movie that's drawing a lot of major attention is the movie that's been number two at the box office for the last 2 weeks, which is kind of surprising. Argo. Argo is Ben Affleck's third film. He did Gone Baby Gone and The Town, both set in Boston, which was pretty interesting. But he's taking a stab at the Middle East and, well, Canada, I guess, and talking about a subject that is really interesting politically right now, with the situation that happened in Libya a little bit ago. The Republicans were trying to turn Libya into President Obama's Iran, the way they did back in 1980 with Jimmy Carter and President Reagan. That hasn't really seemed to work so far, but the film Argo actually works really well, and I think it's one of the most entertaining films that I've seen this year. Ben Affleck has certainly grown as a director, and I think he's really outdone himself. He actually is a decent actor in the film too. And Alan Arkin is really solid. The ensemble itself is really solid. I know a lot of people have been pointing to Alan Arkin as one of those actors who stands out, and he's really funny. It'll be interesting to see come Academy Awards time. I think he'll be nominated. I don't know. I mean, it's a little bit early for my own personal taste. I don't know if he'll make my list. I think he's really solid, but I've seen a lot of really good supporting performances that are pretty interesting. But as I was saying, back to the film, I think the film is just really well made. The score is really good. It builds that intense, you know, thrilling aspect that you want for the type of film that it is. When you really, I knew the outcome, but as I was watching the movie, I almost second guessed myself, which I thought was pretty great. I think one of the interesting things that will happen is how much is Hollywood giving itself credit in the film. So I think that will help it more than hurt it. Although I think in the end game it could be one of those things that we award show junkies, think about and overthink. Um, Overall, the film is just a great film, and if it continues making money and continues gaining the buzz that it's getting, I think at the moment for me it's a surefire Best Picture nominee, maybe even the potential winner. Um, at the moment, it's a close toss up for me between that film and The Master, on which film I personally think is best. Um, when it comes to the Academy, The Master could be pretty divisive, and I think it is. I know I've heard that a lot of Academy members are really torn on it. They respect it. a lot, but some just don't get it. There are a lot of people that don't get it, and I think I had to really ponder and think about it, which I think is one of the things that makes me really appreciate it as a solid film. I think what really carries it a lot again is the performances. Joaquin Phoenix is pretty brilliant in this movie. He is really, really great at playing the role that he's playing. He's playing a confused person who gets seduced by a cult type religious experience, and the person who draws him in, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, is also just really, really great. Philip Seymour Hoffman is probably one of my favorite actors working, and he always does a fantastic job. And no surprise that either of them is wonderful, and I think their performances are some of the strongest I've seen in a very long time in that category. In the lead act, they're both leads. They are both leads. So if someone watches this and they are an Academy voter or tries to argue against that, you're a little bit crazy. They are both lead performances. Um, Amy Adams is solid, not good enough in the film for me. She doesn't really make or break my experience with the film. Paul Thomas Anderson, his direction and just the way it is one of the most, it's a small film, but the technical aspects are absolutely stunning. The cinematography is, at the moment, my favorite of the year. Argo also had beautiful cinematography, but The Masters just blew me away. I thought the shots were wonderful. The editing is solid, and as usual, Paul Thomas Anderson uses the same person who scored There Will Be Blood to score this film. There Will Be Blood score was disqualified by the Academy. I hope this score is not, because it's actually really, really solid. Whether it'll get nominated or not is another story. I think the film's divisiveness is going to hurt it, and I think it'll get a handful of nominations. Maybe I'm thinking maybe just the direction nomination. I don't know if it's going to be a solid Best Picture contender. I think it'll do, as my one of my favorite award show gurus, Tom O'Neill at GoldDerby.com, would say, critics are going to go nuts for it, and it's going to do really well at Critics Awards, but the Academy is another story, and right now, Argo and The Master are the two best films that I've seen this year. Other films that I think have a chance or stand a chance, I saw The Sessions last week. I don't think it'll make it in the Best Picture, Director, maybe an adapted screenplay nomination. The two nominations that it really should get, and I think will get potentially, or will get in reality, are lead actor for John Hawkes. Academy Award voters, as we all know, love someone who plays a person with a disability. If you look at Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, that was one of the, they love that challenge that an actor has to face or go through. He is brilliant. He is one of the best actors in the last couple of years, from Winter's Bone and Martha, Marcy May Marlene. He has stormed the indie scene in my mind, and he is just really a fantastic actor and does a really good job at making you laugh and cry in this film. It was great to see Helen Hunt back working again. I loved her in As Good as It Gets, and I thought her performance in that was just a really beautiful performance. She won the Oscar for that role. Some have, stated that she didn't deserve it, and she was on a track because of the success of her TV show, and at the time, she was the most popular actress in that category, and I don't know, Tom O'Neill from Gold Derby would maybe call her the babe. I don't know if I'd quantify Helen Hunt as a babe, per se. In fact, mainly because a lot of people were massive detractors on her looks, and I don't mean to be a critic of her looks. I think she's a very attractive woman. She bears certainly a lot in The Sessions. from her body to her soul in the performance that she gives. And some argue lead. I think supporting. I would put her in the supporting actress category. The film is about him. It is about her and how she guides him on his journey. And I don't know. This is one of those tough ones. But I definitely think she deserves a nomination. I'd be fine either way, lead or supporting, to be honest. I really liked the sessions. If you haven't seen it, it's being released this week. Actually, I saw it in screening. Um, Go see it. It's a really funny, tender, heartwarming film that it doesn't manipulate. I don't think it just kind of builds this natural aura around it, and I really liked it. I actually got to see. This is not a very good transition, but another film that I got to see in screening was Lincoln. I saw that actually a couple weeks ago, and saw it prior to the Steven Spielberg, Daniel Day-Lewis Q&A through Yahoo. It was. I was a history major when I went to college, and as a history major, there is. I have a lot of admiration for the work that went into this film. I don't think it's going to be my favorite film of the year, but it certainly shows a lot of effort. I think it is one of Spielberg's better films within the last decade or so. Throughout the 2000s, he's had some ups and downs, and Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, Munich. I would say those were his ups. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, War Horse, just to name two at the moment. Terminal. Those were his downs for me. I never got, specifically War Horse. I feel like it was that movie that made you think it should have an Oscar nomination. And Lincoln kind of has that feel, but it doesn't. It is just a really well written, well directed, well acted. Daniel Day-Lewis is phenomenal as Abraham Lincoln. And if he isn't nominated, and he could potentially win his third Oscar for this role, if Joaquin Phoenix maybe shuts his mouth and doesn't say he doesn't want to win an Oscar for the